The cafeteria echoed with laughter, but it wasn't the kind of laughter that warms the heart. It was sharp, mocking, the kind of sound that cuts deeper than words. At the center of it all sat Emily, clutching her lunch tray, trying hard not to let her tears show. She had made the mistake of telling the truth earlier that day, and now the kids around her were tearing her apart for it. "You expect us to believe that?" one boy sneered, slamming his hand on the table. "Your mom, a Navy SEAL? That's the funniest thing I've ever heard." Another chimed in, "Yeah, right, Emily. SEALs are men. Big, tough, scary guys. Your mom probably just works at a desk or sells cookies at a bake sale." The laughter roared again, and Emily's cheeks burned red. Her voice trembled as she tried to speak. "I'm not lying. My mom really is a SEAL. She—" But before she could finish, another girl shouted over her, "Shut up already, liar. You just want attention." The cafeteria erupted in cruel giggles, and Emily felt her chest tighten. She wanted to disappear. She wanted the floor to open up and swallow her whole. But deep inside, even though she was hurt, she wasn't ashamed. She knew her mother's truth. She knew what her mom had sacrificed, what she had endured, the discipline, the scars, the bravery. Emily just wished for once others could see it too. Just as the taunts grew louder, the sound of boots echoed through the hallway outside, heavy, synchronized, sharp. It wasn't the usual shuffle of teachers or the drag of sneakers. It was precise, powerful. The laughter died down, curiosity replacing cruelty. The cafeteria doors swung open, and in walked a unit dressed in full tactical gear, helmets, vests, patches on their sleeves. The sight silenced everyone instantly. The air shifted. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Emily's bullies froze, their smirks evaporating as if someone had snatched the breath from their lungs. At the front of the formation, her mother stepped in, her presence commanding the entire room without a word. She wasn't tall compared to some of the others, but her bearing, her eyes, her very posture radiated authority and strength. Every step she took made the students shrink further back into their seats. Emily's heart pounded. She hadn't known her mom was coming today. She never bragged, never flaunted her job, never wore her uniform around unless duty required it. But now here she was, standing in the doorway like a storm that had finally broken loose. Emily, her mother's voice cut through the silence, steady, warm, but carrying the weight of command. Emily looked up, her eyes wide. "Yes, Mom, I need you to come with me. We've got a minute before my next briefing." The way she said it, so casual, so matter of fact, made the room spin for the other kids. One boy's mouth hung open, his earlier insults stuck in his throat. A girl who had laughed the loudest clutched the edge of the table, her eyes darting between Emily and the armed unit behind her mother. Emily rose slowly, her tray rattling as she set it down. She walked toward her mom, and for the first time in days, she felt taller than everyone else in the room. She wasn't just Emily, the girl they mocked. She was Emily, daughter of a Navy SEAL. As she reached her mother, the SEAL placed a hand on her shoulder and gave her a subtle smile. One only Emily could truly read. It said, "I'm proud of you. I know what you went through, and I'm here." Then her mother turned her gaze toward the cafeteria. The bullies squirmed under her eyes. She didn't yell. She didn't need to. Her stare was enough to crush any lingering doubt. Finally, she spoke, her voice calm but firm. "There are many things in this world you may not believe, but never make the mistake of mocking someone for speaking the truth. My daughter doesn't need to prove anything to you, but let me make one thing clear. She wasn't lying. The silence was absolute. Not a giggle, not a whisper, just the heavy realization settling in the hearts of every student present. Without another word, Emily's mother guided her out of the cafeteria, the unit following behind. As the doors shut, the tension broke, but not into laughter this time. Instead, it left the bullies shrinking into their seats, faces pale, their cruelty now poisoned by shame. Emily walked beside her mother down the hallway, a new strength rising in her chest. For the first time, she didn't care who doubted her. She didn't care about whispers or laughs. She had witnessed the truth shatter every lie. And the world had seen, even for a brief moment, exactly what she had always known deep inside. Her mom was a warrior, a protector, a SEAL, and she was proud to be her daughter. That day, The cafeteria learned a lesson it would never forget. That sometimes the unbelievable is true, and that respect is earned not by noise, but by undeniable presence. As for Emily, she no longer felt small. She no longer felt like she had to prove herself. Because when her mother walked in with her unit, the world stopped laughing. And from that day forward, no one ever called her a liar again. "I'm not lying, my mom's a seal," those words had slipped out of Emily's mouth in a moment of frustration when the kids around her had pushed her too far. But as soon as they left her lips, the wave of laughter that followed cut her like a knife. The cafeteria filled with cruel chuckles and mocking voices that turned her truth into a joke. A boy with freckles slammed his hand on the table and sneered, "You really expect us to believe that your mom a Navy SEAL? Come on, Emily, SEALs are tough guys, not moms who bake cookies." Another girl leaned forward, her smirk sharp as a blade. "Yeah, right, maybe your mom works at a desk or volunteers for the school fair. But a SEAL has stop lying, Emily." Everyone knew better than to argue, but Emily couldn't stay quiet. Not when they mocked the person she admired most. Her voice shook, but she forced words out. "I'm not lying, my mom really is a SEAL. She's been deployed. She trains harder than anyone. She's stronger than the rest." Of her words drowned under a chorus of laughter. "Liar, liar, attention seeker, stop making up stories." The words echoed in her head until her chest felt tight and her eyes burned. She wanted to cry, but she wouldn't give them the satisfaction. She pressed her lips together, her fingers curling around her lunch tray. And in her heart, she repeated to herself, "She's not lying, she's telling the truth they'll never understand." But then a sound unlike any other cut through the cafeteria, the heavy synchronized thud of boots against the hallway floor, the kind of sound that carried power, precision, discipline. The laughter faltered, voices dropped, kids turned toward the doors, curiosity replacing mockery. The wide double doors burst open, and in walked a unit clad in tactical gear, helmets, vests, insignia sharp and clear. Their presence hit the room like a wave, freezing every student mid-breath. And at the front, leading them all, was her mother, her face focused, her eyes sharp, her stride filled with command. She wasn't the tallest, but she carried herself with authority that silenced even the boldest troublemakers. Emily's breath caught. She hadn't known her mother would be here. She never bragged about her job, never wore her uniform to school, unless she absolutely had to. But now here she was in all her power, walking into the cafeteria, as if the world itself had called her. And the bullies who moments ago mocked Emily shrank into their seats, their smirks vanishing, their laughter dying in their throats as her mother's gaze swept the room. "Emily," her mother's voice rang out, steady, warm, but firm. Emily straightened. "Yes, Mom, come with me. I have a few minutes before my next briefing." Her words sounded casual, but the weight they carried crashed over the students like thunder. They stared, mouths hanging open, eyes wide, unable to reconcile the truth standing before them. Emily stood slowly, setting down a tray, her movements deliberate, her heart pounding, but her head held high. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel small. She didn't feel like the butt of the joke. She felt proud. She felt strong as she walked to her mother's side. The SEAL rested a steady hand on her shoulder. A small smile flickered, just for Emily, the kind of smile that said, "I see you, I know what you went through, and I'm proud." Then her mother turned her gaze back to the cafeteria. She didn't shout, she didn't need to. Her silence spoke louder than anything. But finally she said in a calm, steady voice, "There are many things in this world you may not believe, but never make the mistake of mocking someone for speaking the truth. My daughter doesn't owe you proof. But know this, she wasn't lying." The words rang in the stillness, and no one dared move. The bullies, who had been so loud minutes ago, now stared down at their trays, their cheeks pale, their bravado shattered. One boy swallowed hard, another girl gripped the table, as if it could keep her from crumbling under the weight of shame. Emily's mother didn't linger. She gave one last look, her hand still resting on her daughter's shoulder, before guiding her toward the doors. The rest of the unit followed, boots striking the floor with the same precision that had first silenced the room. The doors shut behind them, leaving the cafeteria hushed and heavy. But the silence was different now. It wasn't filled with mockery. It was filled with realization. Emily walked beside her mother, her chest swelling not with pride alone, but with a sense of belonging. She no longer felt like the liar they painted her to be. She no longer felt invisible. Her mother's truth had shattered every doubt, every insult, every cruel word the bullies had thrown at her. And though she didn't need their validation anymore, she knew deep down no one would ever laugh at her the same way again. Her mom was a warrior, a protector, a SEAL, and she was her daughter that day. The cafeteria learned a lesson they would never forget, that sometimes the most unbelievable truths are real, and that respect isn't demanded with noise but commanded with presence. And from that moment on, no one ever called Emily a liar again.